Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
And all that. So
to double check that, if I didn't, I certainly will.
Yeah, I'll check with him today.
Okay.
Oh, good morning and welcome to a Thursday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to carry. It's Thursday. You know what that means. We got Brent Beaird. We'll be joined by him in just a second on the Titan More Hotline. He's got a lot to talk about coming back from SEC Media Days. But college football is here, folks. People have already cranked it up. The NFL is in full force as well. So we have football. Let's go ahead and head to the Titan More Hotline, and we're joined by our college football analyst, Heisman Trophy voter. I'm sure he's already got his ballot ready to roll. Good morning, Brent. How are you?
Good. It's nice to be back in Clay County after being in Atlanta last week. Certainly enjoyed being with the media and the players and the coaches. But listen, as you said, we're on the verge, frankly, Shane, of really getting going at this point. The week 0 teams, meaning Florida State and Vanderbilt, the ones that we're really interested in, start practice this week. FSU started yesterday. Vanderbilt starts tomorrow. They basically get an extra week of practice for being involved with week 0. And by the time we're talking next Thursday, basically most of the schools in the SEC will be in fall camp. That is how close we are now.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a lull for so long, and then bam, it's here before you know it.
That's right.
So we'll see. As you mentioned, Florida State opens up against Duquesne. I think they're the Dukes.
Yeah.
As I didn't even know they played football, so that'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But Brent, let's talk about. I guess the last couple of days, a lot of talk has been about the Big Ten expanding. We all know that at some point USC and UCLA are going to join the Big Ten. What else is going on?
Well, that's the Big Ten's really held court the whole week. So the two big things coming out of there, one is who might they add. Now, I give credit to Dennis Dodd and Matt Hayes for this, and this is something that's come out over the last really 2 days. The schools involved or have been talking about are Cal, Oregon, Stanford, Washington. That would put the Big Ten at 20 schools. Yes, 20. So that they are considering this at this point. Now, that would certainly, as Dennis Dodd says, give a lifeline for the Pac-12, the real remaining brands. You still got some other schools in the Pac-12. You wonder what in the world will they do, which is a really good question. So expansion is still out there. The Big Ten did not shy away from it either. Kevin Warren said, the commissioner of the Big Ten this week, there are a handful of schools besides Notre Dame that would add value to the future of the Big Ten. I think what the Big Ten really wants to do, they want to be a conference that goes coast to coast, literally.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do this, that's pretty much where they would be. So, okay, that's one thing that came out of the meetings. The other thing that really raised a lot of eyebrows was the Big Ten talking about not only an expanded playoff, but if folks haven't heard this, an expanded playoff not to 8, not to 12, but to 16. So that, as you can imagine, has gotten a lot of attention. And the reason it has is Ohio State AD Gene Smith, who arguably is one of the more influential ADs in the nation. He is quoted as saying, 16 just seems to be out there. You can't ignore it. So, yes, Shane, to say the least, a lot of, I don't know if it's big news as much as is potential big news coming out of the Big Ten over the last couple of days.
Yeah, the crazy thing, though, is, their home office is in Chicago, which makes sense.
Right.
But now, as you said, I mean, going all over the entire country, from LA to Miami to New York, it's going to be a mess. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. But we got a couple of Facebook Lives here, Brent. And it's regarding Miami. And I'm sure you're going to get to this later. But let me find it here. David says, what is Miami doing getting all these recruits? Something smells funny besides money. Something is going on. I don't think so. I mean, Mario Cristobal has had a track record of being a pretty good recruiter everywhere he's been.
Right.
You throw in this dude that's the billionaire just throwing money around. I get it. I mean, what else could there be that's fishy going on?
Well, I think where this is coming from is that this kid, Malik Bryant, committed to Miami on Wednesday afternoon. He is the third linebacker to commit to them. This was a close battle again with Florida. He's out of Orlando at Jones High School. Look, I mean, I'm with you. You've got their collective has gotten a lot of attention here. But again, the thing that we need to keep in mind, I don't care how many players Miami gets at this point in recruiting, the thing we've got to remember is, A, these kids aren't playing immediately, and B, in your typical recruiting class, you're only going to get maybe half of them that help you anyway. So I'm just saying, Gator fans need to be careful in comparing everything to Miami. Miami is not the panacea, frankly, and just because Miami gets someone over Florida doesn't mean that this is the end of the world. I know Shane and I say this every week, but I'm going to continue to say that Billy Napier is doing what he said he was going to do, and that's to stay within the framework of was it 300 miles around Gainesville or something in that nature, or 250, 300. And he basically has done that. So I give him credit. He's got a plan. He's sticking by it. But again, and I get fans being upset about this. But when Miami gets someone over Florida, as they did with Malik Bryant, there's a tendency to overreact to that, Shane. And I think that's a lot of what's going on.
Yeah. And he actually played for his head coach in high school was Elijah Williams, former Gator. But look, here's the deal. Miami is selling whatever they have down there, the 90s teams, to these kids. And some kids want to go to these cities where there's all this nightlife and it's a different world. I mean, when you compare Coral Gables / Miami to Gainesville or Athens, Georgia, or these places, it's night and day. And that's just what some of these kids want to do. And they're getting paid, supposedly, whatever it is. But as somebody just put here on Facebook Live, these kids can transfer anytime they want now.
Yes.
So, Dan says most of the starting SEC quarterbacks are transfers, and that is true. I can't even remember. I was on a podcast last night. I'm on so many of them, I can't remember whose is what. But I told them, I said, look, I understand Gator fans getting upset, but why? I mean, Malik Bryant obviously is a really good football player, but maybe Florida wasn't the right fit for him. Yep. Maybe he feels more comfortable at Miami. I mean, you don't know what these kids are thinking. And if it's money that they're going after, fine, let them go. Who cares? We're not going to get in bidding wars. I can promise you that.
Right.
And I don't think Alabamas and the Georgias of the world who have been winning national titles are getting in any bidding awards either, because you don't hear about it. If kids go there because they know they're going to be playing with highly competitive teammates and they have a chance to win a national title. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see if all these kids committing to Miami stick with their commitment.
Yeah, correct.
Let's see what this Facebook says here before we move. John says we just shouldn't be losing all the battles between Miami and Florida. I get losing some players, but so far they're beating Miami and winning the majority of them. Okay, my question to you, John, is why shouldn't Florida lose those players to Miami if they walk in there and they say, okay, this is what we're going to give you? Look, well, I have zero problem with the way the Florida Gators are recruiting, because again, I have a serious issue with people walking into a kid's house and saying, we're going to pay you X amount of dollars to come supposedly play football for our school. I just don't believe in that. And I don't think, I'm going to back up. There's hardly any coaches that I know that like the NIL the way it's going.
Correct.
And I can promise you this is going to happen, Brent, if they don't get it under control. Whoever is paying those kids that amount of money, if it's still true, which I don't believe, and that kid, as we talked about, does not participate and sits on the sideline for a year, the people that stroke the check are going to be all in the head coach's business, and they're going to be probably telling the head coach how to run his team. I think it's going to happen.
That's a real danger with this. A couple of things here real quick. You've got a couple of trains of thought here. There are some schools, I think Florida's this way, that they're waiting until the kid gets into the program, and then they're dealing with NIL stuff at that point. There's still a lot of this NIL stuff that's behind the scenes that schools aren't talking about.
Technically, excuse me for interrupting, but
sure.
Technically, because we had Darren Heitner on our show, we can throw all these deals you want out there, but they can't get anything until they actually enroll on campus.
Correct.
So this Malik Bryant may be getting $20 million. He ain't getting none of it. Well, he might, but that's the illegal part. So,
right. Anyway, and that's what really, that's the thing that concerns everybody, is are you giving direct payments to high school seniors? That is where Greg Sankey's talked about this, and the other commissioners. That's the thing they've got that they're looking at, and they're very concerned about. And even the NCAA, who is trying to reinvent themselves, are going through the same thing. Now, here's the other edge of this thing too: is it's one thing to get the players, it's another thing to develop them, and that's why I heard at SEC Media Days was it was the question of, okay, Miami's getting these players. We know Cristobal can recruit, but how well can that coaching staff develop these players? Are they going to be able to do that? And this takes 2 or 3 years down the line, as opposed to what a Florida and anyone else can do. So, as Shane has been talking about, there are a lot of areas here that people just need to sit back and relax and let this stuff go, and see where the market goes with this. See what the NCAA and the conferences do with this, but don't panic right now that Miami is getting players over Florida. I know it's tempting to do that, but don't do it.
Yeah. Before we move on, a couple of Facebook Lives. David says, I'm not overreacting. Miami has not been recruiting well for a while now. Well, the dynamics of football have changed. They're able to actually throw cash at kids. That is the nightlife in Miami. All the fancy cars and nightclubs and money. No one is upset. I'm wondering what's going on. That's what's going on. John says, we have been the better program in my eyes, and I get it's hard to turn down money that is being held up to you. We have been the better program, John, but here's what I try to tell people, and I say it daily, it seems like, to my friends. You have to take your orange and blue glasses off, or whatever your school is. You have to take that T-shirt, that jersey off, and say, okay, that kid has no loyalty to any program, unless maybe his mom and dad or somebody went to that school. These kids are going to go to where they're thrown the most money, Now, obviously, if the Akron Zips give them money, they're not going to go play for Akron. They're going to go play for a Power 5 school. But
Sure.
there's no loyalty anymore. Those days are long gone, and I think fans have a hard time believing that. Scott says Billy's doing the things the right way. It looks like tortoise versus the hare right now, but trust the process. We'll win titles. Look, this dude's sharp, man.
He is.
He is so sharp, it's crazy. Yes, Andy, I was on the High Top Sports podcast last night. Yeah, so I had a good time with those guys for sure. Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com. All right, Brent, let's get back to this. There's always that one weekend in college football that, it's the weekend you don't want to go to your school's games because you want to hunker down on the couch and watch ball. But a lot of people think it's week 5. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and that's a good possibility too. Alabama, Arkansas, LSU at Auburn, Michigan at Iowa, NC State at Clemson. That's a huge game in that league. Ohio State at Baylor for the Big 12. A&M at Mississippi State. That's a nice game too. And then Washington at UCLA. Now there are some others that we'll mention later, but yes, week 5, one of the more attractive weeks.
Yes, for sure. Labor Day is right around the corner. That's the weekend when you got the Georgia playing Oregon and all that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's the same weekend as we play Utah, correct?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. And the games will begin on Thursday. Game day, as a matter of fact, is going to be at the backyard brawl with West Virginia and Pitt. Now, a lot of our listeners may think there's nothing to that game. That is an incredible rivalry, and that will be huge. And the other big game that weekend, among others, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Columbus. Game day will be there. So if you're looking to see where game day is going, Thursday night, September 1, they will be in Pittsburgh, again for West Virginia Pitt, and then they'll be in Columbus for Notre Dame and Ohio State. And that is a huge game, is it not, Shane, for both of those teams to start the year?
No question. Is this the first time that the backyard brawl, or whatever they call it, has been at the beginning of the year?
It's usually later. That's a good point. That would be something worth Googling to find out. But it's something that's renewed now. That they need. Those are two teams that need to play every year for a variety of reasons, and hopefully that will happen more than it has been in the past.
Andy's got a question for you here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melvin Law. He says, Brent, ESPN is predicting Texas to go 11-1 after losing to Alabama. Do you agree with that?
No.
I don't see there's any way they go 11-1.
No
way.
You've got way too many questions. They will be better, but I don't think there's any way. You're still trying to find out who your quarterback is. The real problem at Texas is their offensive line, and their beat writers would tell you that is a weakness for them. So if your offensive line is struggling, how far into the year is it going to be before you get it corrected? And they may not. So no, I don't. Again, I think they'll be better, but 11-1, I don't buy that at all.
Before we move on to what's going on around the league, there is talk out there about unionizing for college football players, and there has been talk in the past about it. I understand it, but I don't know a whole lot about being a part of a union, except the National Football League Players Union I was in, and it costs $10,000 a year to be in it. Okay, yep. So I think people forget that they're probably going to have to pay some kind of fee to be in this union. And what about those scholarship kids that may not be getting NIL and this, that, and the other? They may not want to be able to pay whatever the fee is. Am I wrong here?
No. And I'll be brief about this because there's just so much of it we don't know yet. But Sean Clifford, the Penn State quarterback, is trying to organize this. They tried to get in front of Big Ten officials this week and they denied them to come in and sit down. Now, I think they will have a sit down eventually, but it just didn't happen this week at their media days. So the two things they're asking for, and I get this to a degree, I just don't know if it's ever going to happen, is a share of the television revenue that's sacred to these commissioners and these officials in these conferences. I can tell you that. And they want better medical care, and I get that too. And again, I don't want to play lawyer or businessman with this and get in the weeds with this, but it's coming up. It will continue to come up, and this is a reality that college football is going to have to deal with one way or another. And this would probably lead to contracts and maybe somewhat of a mini NFL. And again, I'll just close it out with that. But again, Sean Clifford, Penn State, is started with the Big Ten. You remember Northwestern tried this a few years ago; it didn't work. So, but this is a very important issue, Shane. We need to keep our eyes on this one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Marshall says schools should cover it with the TV money for the kids with no NIL, but the schools can't. The schools can't pay any of this money. The school has nothing to do with NIL. Remember that,
Correct.
folks.
Correct.
We got a text on the Titan Mart text line from Bob. He says, "Hey Brent, do they ever reveal the media's picks at the SEC media days? Because I really want to know who gave Vanderbilt a first place vote."
No, that's a really good point. They didn't. But yes, there was actually someone in the media who voted that Vanderbilt will win the SEC. Now, A&M got one vote. I get that. Also, South Carolina actually got a few. I think got three. I'm not sure where that came from either. But again, from the SEC, obviously Georgia in the East, Alabama in the West, Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida, South Carolina, Missouri, and Vanderbilt, Bama, A&M, Arkansas, Ole Miss, LSU, Mississippi State, and Auburn. The fun thing about the SEC this year, you've got LSU at 5. Shane, LSU could be 5 or they could be 2 in the West.
Yeah.
To me, it's up for grabs.
I agree. And the more I think about it, I think Auburn's going to surprise people this year. I don't know why.
They very well could.
I just think they will. Dan says on Facebook Live, it wasn't Brent with that Vandy vote, was it?
Yeah, you can be assured it wasn't.
Yeah. All right, Brent, a lot of talk this week coming out of Athens, and maybe it came out of SEC Media Days, but I've heard it a lot. Kirby wants the game moved to home and home.
Right.
I get Kirby. Come on, Kirby. Look, you played in this game. You're probably the best recruiter in America. Yeah. Is really one home game every other year going to help your recruiting when you're already the top recruiter in the top getting, the number one recruiting team in America? I mean, I don't agree with it at all, because there's only Florida, Georgia, Texas OU, Army, Navy, and then you can kind of throw in there Arkansas A&M because they've been playing recently there at Jerry's World. Has anybody ever mentioned moving OU Texas? I've never heard that. Maybe because we don't live out there. No. But Brent, am I crazy? Because is it really going to help the Georgia Bulldogs have a better recruiting class?
No. And I've been up front with this. Look, if you just want a home game, just admit it, and that's where they are. But this unmitigated nonsense about that it affects recruiting is ridiculous. Look, in following recruiting, Georgia over the last, say, 5 years has either been 1, 2, or 3. Okay, yeah. You can't get much better than that. So the point of it affecting recruiting is just an excuse. Basically, what this is, it comes up every year, and with Kirby winning the national championship, he's got a little bit more probably leverage than he had before. So the question comes up: do they move the game? And I won't get the weeds on this again, but the contract ends after 2023. What I need to check on is does Jacksonville have another 2 years on the option of the contract, But I will tell you this: whoever's the mayor in Jacksonville at that point, you never want to be the mayor who loses the Florida game. So
No.
Jacksonville's going to do all they can to keep that game, Shane.
Yes. I just think it's ridiculous that Kirby thinks that. All right. I'm not familiar with this. I don't know how I missed it. Maybe you know a little bit about it, but Joe asked on Facebook Live, brought to you by Metal Law, our thoughts on Matt Corral saying he regrets going to Ole Miss. Have you heard that?
Yeah, this was on Saturday down south. Folks can take a look at that. What he basically said was that he took the easy way out by going to Ole Miss. Frankly, now he's one of the most popular players ever at Ole Miss. He said, I took the easy way out because I felt I could play right away, knowing what I know now and trusting my instincts and trusting my work ethic. I would have went to a place that would have made me compete. Now, look, he started, he played well, frankly, so I'm not quite sure where all that's coming from with him. I mean, obviously, look, he could stay at Florida and compete at the that's what he wanted to do. But this is from the Shorted Observer. It came out over the last 2 days.
Chris Storing Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Storing Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. Speaking with Brent Beaird on the Titan hotline, you can follow him on Twitter at Brent Beaird. All right, Brent, you've had your little polls all summer long. Got one this week, what y'all learned at SEC Media Days.
Yeah, I give Matt Hayes credit for this. And I won't go into all the teams for the time, but for instance, he said outside linebacker Nolan Smith is in the best shape of his career. He and Robert Beal will be a load to handle on the edge. Bryce Young believes Georgia transfer Jermaine Burton can have a Jameson Williams type impact. He said about Florida, Billy Napier believes Anthony Richardson will have a big season. If he does, Florida will finish in the upper third of the conference. And I certainly would agree with that. With South Carolina, with all the attention on the offense, the defense will be much better in the front seven, particularly with the pass rush. So, and again, I won't go into all of them, but Matt does a good job in talking about one of the big things he learned from media days about every team.
Got a couple of texts here on the Titan Mart text line from Ryan. He says, I was down in Haiti a few weeks, so I've been catching up on the podcast. And after the HBC's phone situation, you asked who else do you know that still has a flip phone? And I can tell you that my wife's 94-year-old grandmother is still a flipper.
Mm-hmm.
But she's got like 20 years on the ball coach. That just cracks me up. Can't believe a good old boy from Georgia named Bubba is now a Saudi sellout. And for a measly $40 million, that's like pocket change for Bubba. Damn shame later on. Appreciate the text. Yeah, I'm done discussing the Tour 54. It just ticks me off. Yeah. Daryl's got a text on the Titan Mart text line. Good morning, guys. A lot of projections have Georgia back in the playoffs again. Brent, what game do you see them potentially losing along the way? Maybe Tennessee? What do you think? Appreciate the text, Daryl.
People really need to look at Georgia's schedule. This is what's going to get them back in the playoffs because let's be honest about this. The schedule is lacking. They play Oregon to start the year with Dan Lanning, maybe Bo Nix at quarterback. And frankly, Shane, to me, I mean, now they've got an early game at South Carolina, which is going to be important. But this year they escaped a lot of the tough Western foes. But I'm going to say if they lose, the chances of them losing are going to be again South Carolina, Tennessee, Florida. Now they've got a humongous game in November with Kentucky, and if you believe Kentucky is going to be second in the East, that's probably the game to look for. But there's some stuff about Kentucky we need to mention too that could change their season. So right now, Georgia does not have a tough schedule. It's a wonderful schedule to get them back in the playoffs. But again, look, Georgia's got a lot of really good talent coming back. People need to understand that. They lost a lot to the NFL, but as we mentioned a few minutes ago, they recruited well. So I think that will be fine. So, again, I encourage folks, if you haven't looked at Georgia's schedule, sit down and do that. That will let you know kind of where their season's going.
Yeah. Brent, defense still wins a lot of football games in college football, right?
That has never changed. Saturday Down South did a interesting study about this. That as much attention as offense is getting, the top four scoring defenses, Georgia, A&M, Alabama, Kentucky, in the SEC last year won 45 games. The bottom four defenses, Vandy, Tennessee, Missouri, and Florida, won 21 combined. So, Shane, that old axiom never fails, does it? It's always important.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an offensive guy. You do need to have a solid defense, but you got to score touchdowns to win. That's my philosophy. Heisman odds are out. I'm looking at them right here. I think the three guys that will be going to Atlanta as of today would be C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, and Will Anderson are my three picks.
Yeah.
Here on whatever today's day is. People. I've had so many people tell me that Anthony's like the fifth highest odds. Why is he not on this list?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, obviously, once he starts playing well, all that will change.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just throw the numbers up there. Frankly, Bijan Robinson at Texas is gaining some ground. DJ Uiagalelei at Clemson, who frankly was very average last year, and that's probably being kind, has lost, to his credit, has lost 30 pounds, and he's supposed to be much better. But Shane, we will see.
Well, I don't give a damn if he loses 100 pounds, Brent. He couldn't throw the football accurately and make good decisions. Right. I don't know what weight has to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
But he may prove us all wrong this year. We'll see. He was very highly recruited, so who knows? What's going on? Let's go around the league. What's going on up in Tuscaloosa? They got a bunch of dudes on the preseason All-SEC team, but what was interesting to me, Brent, out of those 8 guys, 5 of them were transfers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That tells you again how quickly that transfers change things. Just quick news for Alabama. They start fall practice August 4th. They recently got the number 1 safety in the country, Caleb Downs. Former Bama coach Gene Stallings is recovering from a 3rd minor stroke. Stallings is a tough guy, so continued prayers for him. The biggest thing about Alabama came out this week about after kick 6, the loss to Auburn, that Nick Saban actually, and this is from in a new book by John Talty, who's been one of the Alabama beat writers. It's called Leadership Secrets of Nick Saban. It's coming out next week. And part of that book, and I'll be brief on this, was that after kick 6, Alabama, Saban was frustrated after that and considered maybe going to ESPN as an analyst, likely in the studio. So he changed his mind as it went along, but it's kind of fascinating how this went. Now, also along about that time, there was some thought about him going to Texas, and I certainly heard that when I was at Media Days too. But he stayed. Obviously, things changed. He won more championships, but I just thought that was revealing that sometimes coaches have things happen to them in a whole season, or an event like Kick 6, that really causes them to think about what they need to do about their future.
Yeah, that is interesting. That's the first that I've heard of that. Also, the notes that came out of Alabama, which this is what NIL is all about right here. Alabama's partnering with Fanatics, opening a season, quote, team store at Bryant-Denny called The Authentic. feature co-branded player merchandise such as custom Nike jerseys, game-used autographed memorabilia, and trading cards. That's what the NIL is all about.
Yeah, well, look, and people need to understand this. This is not a store in the mall. This is a store in the stadium. In the stadium. Shane, don't you think this is coming for everybody at some point?
Well, you would think.
Yeah. I think for the ones who can afford it, that this is going to be happening. It's not going to happen overnight because you got to build the thing. But that's an interesting idea that's going to catch on pretty quick.
Yeah, Camp says regarding Anthony Richardson, when I asked about the Heisman odds, he says, well, AR is not on that list because when was the last time a 6-4 produced a Heisman Trophy winner? I am not sarcastic. I just don't know. I'm hoping we're more competitive than 7-5. I want to say Tebow won the Heisman and they went 7-5, I think, that one year. So it wasn't a great year the year he won it, right? Do you remember that, Brent?
Yeah.
Didn't Florida have like just a mediocre team? I don't remember. But anyway, all right. The Gators are cranking up. They have first team all preseason. Big Osiris Torrance. They report on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But this stat you have here, I believe Thomas Goldkamp, you give credit for, is amazing to me.
Well,
amazing.
This is mind blowing, as he said. Florida has not had 1,000-yard receiver since Taylor Jacobs back in 2002. So doesn't mean they haven't had receivers that have gone to the NFL. But I would agree with you, particularly what you were used to when you were at UF. Shane, would you have ever believed that you'd have seen that stat?
No, and I want to say somebody brought it up the other day. I think Kadarius Toney was only a few yards shy of that, but still, because when you go back to 2002, the game has changed so much in 20 years.
Sure,
you play more games, but it seemed like Coach Spurrier had a 1,000-yard receiver every year, and then people try to tell me now, well, they spread the ball around, dude. Do you realize he had 3 to 4 studs every year catching tons of balls?
Yes.
So I don't want to hear that nonsense. We just got to be a better throwing football team. John says Ben Hill Griffin Stadium has a store in the stadium, but they don't have anything like Alabama. Right. Every stadium has the stores with merchandise, but what Alabama is doing is exactly what NIL is all about. You should be able to walk in there and say, I want a number 47 jersey.
Yep.
Whoever wears 47, bam, you get a piece of the pie.
That's right.
We haven't talked to you since Kirby is now the highest paid college football coach. I know a lot of people don't. I think it's well deserved. I think I actually think, I was thinking about this the other day, and people may think I'm crazy. And I'm not here tooting Georgia's horn, but I like Kirby. Kirby treated my son really well when he went up to Athens. I've known Kirby a little bit at golf events. What he is doing to me at Georgia, even though Georgia had won a national title and won a bunch under Vince Dooley and Mark Richt, his transformation is very similar to me than is what Steve Spurrier did for the Florida Gators.
Yes.
Former player coming in and changing the culture and has them on top immediately. And I firmly believe he's going to become the all-time winningest coach at Georgia if he doesn't decide to go to the NFL.
Yeah, I would agree. And he deserved the contract. Frankly, it's a 10-year contract that he would be making basically $10 million. At the end of the contract, he'll make $12 million at that point. But look, to your point, Shane, they've, except for maybe 1980 when they won the national championship, they have not come close to having this kind of talent before Kirby got there. He has changed that totally. 14-7 versus top 10 opponents, tremendous defense. We can go into more superlatives later, but I'm with you. He earned it. He got it. And look, when you win a national championship in the SEC, this is your reward, what you get.
Yes, there's no question. We got a text here from Jay on the Titanmar text line. How does the feel around the team and campus compare to Coach Spurrier's injury in 90? Maybe he's meaning when Coach Spurrier came here. I haven't been around campus a lot, but look, people always ask me, I was here, new coach comes in, Coach Spurrier, and is it similar? Coach Spurrier would tell you he walked into a team that was loaded with talent, especially defensively. The previous year before he got here, the defense was ranked number 3 overall in America, and everybody was coming back pretty much. So Billy Napier ain't walking into a loaded roster at all. So it's going to take time. I've said that. I believe that. And I'm going to stick by that. All right, Brent, let's talk about Kentucky real quick. Doring, I don't know if you saw Doring, but he predicted Kentucky to beat Georgia in Lexington. Now, that game is late in the year in November. I could understand maybe if Kentucky was playing them at home early in the year because Georgia has so many guys playing on Sundays now. I just don't see it happening.
Well, and to me, this may have been the biggest thing that came out of media days that was not talked about. And is the situation with Chris Rodriguez. Chris Rodriguez is one of the better running backs in the league. Mm-hmm. He will go for 1,000, 1,200 yards. Now, I'm not saying there's anything bad about this or nefarious about this. All we've heard is, and this is reports, heard a little bit of it at media days, we don't know what his status is now. And we're not starting rumors because there are reports about this. But Shane, my point with this is, if he does not play for them, that is a tremendous blow. I mean, anytime you lose someone that can gain those many yards, he's one of the better backs in the league and certainly in the country. Now, the other thing that happened, and this just came out yesterday, is their sophomore quarterback, Bo Allen, Beaullen, is entering the transfer portal after 3 seasons. He came in really with a tremendous reputation, hyped as a high school senior, but he really hasn't played much at all. I mean, in 5 games, 11 of them 19, 132. So that's a little bit of a surprise. I mean, Will Levis could be a Heisman Trophy contender before it's over. So they'll be okay this year at quarterback. But the main thing I wanted to get out there was the situation, Shane, with Rodriguez, because that might determine their season if he is either limited or if he doesn't play. And again, we're not saying he's not. We just need to keep an eye on this.
No doubt about it. Brent, before we let you go, give us some nuggets.
Now, this came out just a few minutes ago. There are trial dates in the lawsuits filed by LSU Athletics executive Sharon Lewis and 10 current and former LSU students. Those lawsuits have been set for some of them I think a lot of these are going on next year. Now, look, there are a lot of embarrassing things that could come out with this, and I'm not an attorney, but I'm going to be curious to see how many of these are going to be settled beforehand. Now, these are Title IX violations. This is serious stuff, to say the least. So watch that for LSU and where that is going. Obviously, big news, and I'll make this real quick. Jeremy Pruitt, obviously at Tennessee, the possible that had 18 level 1 violations. Now, look, there are 2 things here. Tennessee cooperated fully with the NCAA, and the NCAA now is trying to punish the coaches, not the current players who are involved with this, and the current coaches. That's one of the best things that they've ever done if they live up to that promise they made. So what we may see here is a show cause of a long time, maybe 5 to 10 years, for Jeremy Pruitt of not coaching in college. The other thing is, and my question about this is, and this has come up too, Phil Fulmer was your athletic director who hired Jeremy Pruitt. So, I mean, look, Pruitt's name is not mentioned in the information gotten back, the notice of allegations from the NCAA. But I wonder, how this will this tarnish his legacy, and what kind of responsibility does he have with this? That's come up too. So, again, in the interest of time, we'll be suffice with that. But the Tennessee situation was a mess. But I honestly do not think, may be wrong, but I don't think, Shane, that this current Tennessee team is going to be punished for that from the NCAA because they cooperated. But we will see where that goes.
Yeah, Brent, great stuff as always, buddy. Last thing here, we got a Facebook Live brought to you by Mellon Law. It comes from Joseph. He says he saw a stat comparing Will Levis to Emory Jones. Very similar stats last year. People were saying this guy could be a number one QB pick. They say in the first round. But you got to remember, they go by projections and body size, arm strength, all that stuff. Will Levis is going to be a first-round draft pick. Whether he's a good pro or not, who knows? But he's going to be a first-round draft pick. So.
Well, I'll say this briefly. Shane and I talked about this over the season. Levis started like a house on fire last year. About the middle of the year, he had a habit of throwing interceptions. He worked through that and got better as the season went on. So that's a potential. Shane can talk more about that as well as anybody. Start well, have a swoon in the middle of the year, and then you pick it up at the end. And that's not unusual, is it, Shane?
No, not at all. Brent, great stuff as always, buddy. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
You too. Can't wait, guys. Take care.
That's Brent Beaird. Join us on the Titan More Hotline. I'm going to take a time out, come back, and we'll get to more of these Facebook Lives. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning.
On August 11th, our restaurant Spurrier's Gridiron Grill will be celebrating our one-year anniversary, and we're inviting you to Celebration Point. Proceeds from the event will go to the Ronald McDonald House, and we'll have a spread of your favorite Spurrier dishes, as well as special guests, but you have to get a reservation. So go to spurriers.com right now and reserve your spot before it sells out. And thank you for a super first year. Go Gators!
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogra State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Point is where the Gators go to celebrate. And there is no celebration like the one-year anniversary celebration at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Join us on August 11th as they celebrate with a buffet of our best dishes, including a filet mignon carving station. Proceeds from the tickets will go to the Ronald McDonald House of North Central Florida. Make your reservations at spurriers.com today. Should be a good event. Go all you can eat buffet, right? We have a couple of Facebook Lives brought to you by Meldon Law. Nat says that they've learned that Doring says what he thinks people want to hear. Chris has been on. He likes Mark Stoops. I think he's a really good football coach as well. But Doring has been on Kentucky's bandwagon the last couple of years, and maybe he thinks that with them losing so many good players that Kentucky has a chance. But Chris Rodriguez is a really good running back. I forgot about him not maybe playing this year. Let's get to this day in sports. Brought to our good friends at Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Beat the summer heat and schedule your air conditioners tune up today, keeping you chill and the Florida heat far away. Comfort Temp Heating and Air. Call us today, 352-376-2366. This day in sports, in 2021, 19-year-old gymnast Daiki Hashimoto of Japan becomes the youngest Olympic men's artistic individual all-around champion in the history of the Olympics at 19 years old. So not a whole lot happening on this day in sports, so we had to go to the Olympic Games. Anyway, really want to thank Brent. Brent's always got great information and brings a lot to our program. We appreciate him taking the time to join it. And don't forget, Ruse Ogre State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com and call us today, 352-240-1779. Tomorrow, we'll be joined by JC, get his thoughts on what's going to happen this weekend. We're also going to have Mike Griffith, who covers the Georgia Bulldogs, likes to stir it up. He's always on Feinbaum, likes to take a shot at the Gators. So get your questions ready, folks, to throw them at Mike Griffith tomorrow. He'll be joining us about 8:30ish or so. Let's see. We get a couple more texts here on the Titan MR text line. This one's from Billy. Billy says, Shane, I've missed a lot of the shows. Who are you picking to win the SEC? I mean, it's pretty simple. My people tell me that this could be Nick Saban's best team he's ever had in Alabama. I personally think you're going to see Alabama go undefeated this year, win the national title again, unfortunately. I think Georgia will win the East. I think there's a good possibility those two teams could play again for the national title. As of today, if I had to pick my 4 teams in the playoffs, I would go Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and I haven't looked at USC's schedule, but I just have a feeling with Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley going out there, and they got a lot of transfers. I just don't think the Pac-12 is very good. I'm going to throw USC in there. USC can end up being 8-4 for all I know, but those would be my 4 teams right now. But it's fun. It's not far away, folks. Gators crank up next week. I'll go out there and watch a little ball and give you all an update. Jay says on the Titan Number text line, how deep in your bag did you have to reach to pull that Olympic fact? Well, I just went to the site that gives us those dates there, Jay. I appreciate you listening. But yeah, that was there wasn't a whole lot going on today. So that's why we had to pull out actually last year at the Olympic Games in Tokyo. Preseason has started for the Jaguars. A lot of people think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a big year. Look, I can tell you this. Jaguars are going to be – I joked around last year because JC thought they were going to win 7 games. Like, there's no way in hell they're going to win 7 games. They can easily win 7 games this year because Doug Peterson is a hell of a play caller, hell of an NFL coach, won a Super Bowl, knows what he's doing. They're going to run that West Coast offense, high completion percentage. I think Trevor Lawrence has a chance to have a really good year this year. I don't know how the rest of the Jaguars – I haven't looked at their schedule, but they'll be 1,000 times better than they have been. I've so many reports about how they look like an NFL team now, just the few days that they practiced compared to what it was under Urban Meyer. Boy, what a disaster that was. Anyway, hope you enjoyed today's program. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. Get your questions ready for Mike Griffith. You're watching and listening to Pod Up with Matthews in the morning. We'll see you tomorrow.
Trying to get the fans fired up. 2nd down and 10. Matthews rolling to his right, in trouble, can't find anyone. Now he throws it for Harrison Houston, who makes the catch. He's in the open field. Harrison to the 20. They're not going to catch him. Touchdown, Gators.